class we will discuss an exercise on alternatives evaluation. We have this problem. We have our brewery company that realizes two different types of beer. The company now is realizing just one type of beer, which is the beer type A. And the data about the production of beer type A are the following. We know the unitary price, the variable cost, the fixed costs, and the quantity that is realized. Now the company is evaluating the possibility of introducing also the production of the beer type B in addition to the beer type A. These are the additional information that we need in order to understand this additional production. And we know that if the company wants to realize the beer type B, the selling price would be 1.5 euros per unit. The variable cost related to the production of beer type B will be 0.9 euros to realize 1 unit. And then we have the quantity that is expected to be realized and sell of 50 units. We have that fixed costs are related to the energy and then to the general cost of the company, and they are related both to the production of beer type A but also to the production of beer type B. Given that the company decides is evaluating about the possibility of introducing the beer type B, the company is also expecting to have a marketing campaign in order to promote the production of beer type B, and this cost of the marketing campaign for selling the beer type B would be of 20. Of course, that are simpler just to deal with the main concepts. And the problem, the question is it convenient for the company to add also the production of beer type B in addition to the already produced beer type A? In order to answer this question, we need to identify the relevant costs. Our reference point is always represented by the net operating income, but we need, in order to deal with this, to identify the costs that are relevant for these decisions. Which are the costs that are relevant? The costs that are relevant are those costs that influence only the decision to implement, to realize beer type B. If you look at the data, we have few data, but the costs that are relevant for the production of beer type B are the variable cost for realizing 1 unit of beer type B. This means that if beer type B is realized, the company would incur in 0.9 euros per every unit of beer type B that is realized. So this is an additional cost. Do we have the same problem for the fixed cost? The answer is no, because either the company is realizing beer type A plus beer type B or beer type A only, the company will always have these 25 euros of fixed cost. This is not the case instead for the marketing cost, because the marketing cost is something that the company is paying for only in the moment in which the beer type B is launched on the market. So basically the relevant costs that are those costs that are influenced by the decision are the unitary variable cost and the additional marketing effort for the marketing campaign. Given that we have identified the relevant costs, we can now move to the calculation of the net operating income, but in this case we need to calculate the net operating income in incremental terms by considering additional revenues and by considering additional costs only. And the reason why is because we are evaluating the alternative of realizing beer type B in contraposition, let's say, or with respect to our base case of realizing beer type A only. So we can calculate our net operating income. The formula is always the same. We can start first of all from the calculation of the unitary contribution margin, the overall contribution margin, and then the final net operating income. So if we consider the price minus the variable cost, we have the unitary contribution margin. We are reasoning in terms of incremental costs and incremental revenue. So we are not looking at the overall selling price and the overall contribution margin, but just the additional contribution margin related to the production of product B. So we have the price of 1.5 minus the variable cost of 0.9, so that we have a contribution margin of 0.6 euros per unit. This represents the profitability of our beer type B. So basically we are saying that if we produce beer type B, 1 unit of our beer type B is able to cover the variable cost. Moreover, it is able also to contribute to cover the fixed cost because of this positive contribution margin. Still, we haven't answered to our question yet. So if we multiply the unitary contribution margin by the quantity, So if we multiply this 0.6 by the quantity of beer type B that we are realizing, which is 50, we can identify a total contribution margin of 30 euros. This is the total contribution margin. That is exactly the same, actually it has the same meaning, but with respect to the overall production. If we deduct from the contribution margin the fixed costs, we can identify the net operating income. Pay attention at this point, because we need to deduct the fixed costs, but we are adopting an incremental logic. So the fixed costs are not the overall fixed cost of the company, which are these 25 plus the 20, but we are only considering the fixed costs that are additional, incremental with respect to our beer type B, which in this case are 20. So minus 20 that are our relevant costs. This value will provide a net operating income of plus 10 euros. By looking at this data, we can answer to our question. This 10 represents the additional net operating income. So this is not the overall net operating income for the company, because the overall would be related to the production of beer type A plus the production of beer type B. This 10 represents the additional income that the company can have if it is going to produce also beer type B. So if we want to go back to our initial question, is it convenient for the company to introduce the beer type B to the product line? The answer is yes, it is convenient, and the reason why is because if the company introduces beer type B, and specifically if the company is able to produce and sell 50 units of beer type B, the contribution of this decision to the operating income is positive. Specifically, it is able to contribute to 10 euros to the overall profitability of the company. That's the reason why it is convenient. So what you need to keep in mind from this small exercise is just that if you need to evaluate alternatives, what you are required to do is to identify, first of all, relevant costs. So basically, only those costs that influence the decision you are analyzing. And then you need to calculate the net operating income with the traditional formula just by using the relevant costs only. This is the only difference approach with respect to the traditional formula of the net operating income.